Since the release of Transformers 1, many have repeated the phrase, Megatron was right. I can see where people are coming from given the circumstances he is put in, but I disagree with the sentiment. I totally think you can empathize with his character, but there is one key moment in the movie where I believe he is no longer justified. Obviously, there will be spoilers ahead for the film, so if you still haven't had the chance to see it, feel free to turn back now. But with all that said, let's get into this video and talk about Megatron in Transformers 1. At the start of the movie, Megatron, otherwise known as D16 and Orion Pax, are nothing more than mining bots who cannot transform. For the two of them, this has been what most of their lives consist of. Of the two, Orion dreams of being greater while D prefers to stay in line because it's safer for them. It doesn't take long into the film before we see just how dangerous mining for Energon is, as Jazz would have died if Orion didn't step in to save him. This is important because although it shows us that D would rather stay in line and follow protocol, their life is in constant danger. After losing the race in Iacon in an attempt to show Cybertron that miner bots have the potential to be more, the two come face to face with Sentinel Prime. This is a pretty big deal because everyone idolizes him, especially D. Despite how dangerous mining for Energon is, nobody rebels because they're being told that all their efforts are being used to fuel expeditions to the surface in the hopes of finding the Matrix of Leadership, which was supposedly lost in the war against the Quintessons. Once the Matrix is recovered, it can be used to restore Cybertron and let Energon flow naturally through the planet once again. All of this context is important because it is revealed later in the film that Sentinel is not only a traitor, but a damn liar. He worked with the Quintessons to kill the 13 Primes so that he could ensure power for himself and tried to claim the Matrix, but it vanished because he was unworthy. To make matters worse, Alpha Trion reveals to the main cast that all Cybertronians are born with the ability to transform through their transformation cog, meaning that Sentinel not only robbed an entire generation of Cybertronians of a vital organ, but also used that to create a classist society that put non-transforming Cybertronians at the very bottom, forcing them to work for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Oh yeah, and all that Energon they were mining, it's all been going to the Quintessons, just to make matters worse. Up to this point, it is very easy to empathize with D. His entire life has been a lie, and the person he looked up to the most not only robbed him of his literal God-given right to transform, but also has been using his labor to supply their enemy. This is the start of D's descent into blind rage, and we see him act without consideration for anyone else. He defeats Starscream in a one-on-one and would have killed him if Orion didn't interject. He also attempts to kill Sentinel without evidence of his betrayal. If it weren't for Orion's plan to use Arachnid's memory to expose Sentinel to the rest of Cybertron, D would have been labeled not only a traitor, but a mining bot that just killed the last of the Primes, which would have only further divided the planet, especially when you consider that they still did not have a Matrix to restore Cybertron, meaning that the citizens of the planet would have been completely defenseless against the Quintessons. This is why I believe that the moment Sentinel was exposed, D lost any and all grounds to execute him. Many will say that Orion was a hypocrite for taking down Sentinel's lackeys and killing, but at the end of the day, Sentinel is the one who had the power. It is Sentinel who matters the most, and now that he has been deplatformed, executing him would have made him a martyr and send the wrong message to the citizens of Cybertron. You can argue that D, who is at this point Megatron, is actually morally justified in his actions, but that answer varies from person to person. This is where nuance is important, because I can understand Megatron's point of view, but I don't agree with it. At this point, he has been so consumed with rage that even when he accidentally mortally wounds his best friend, he would rather let him die just to carry out his own revenge. The rundown here is that Megatron is a victim of an oppressive and corrupt system, but that does not absolve him of his own wrongs. As I previously said, you can empathize with him, absolutely. But to say that he was completely in the right is, in my opinion, a surface level claim at best. And this is coming from someone who loved Megatron in this movie. He is probably my favorite character in the entire film. But just because I enjoyed his character and I understand where he's coming from does not mean that I can't also acknowledge where he went wrong. But I'd like to turn the question over to you. Do you think Megatron was justified? Do you think he wasn't? Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing if you would like to see more content by yours truly. And with that said, bye-bye.